Welcome to episode 41 of I Know What You Watched Last Week.
On the Heathen Horror Channel.
On the Heathen Horror Channel, yeah, indeed. And if you haven't already subscribed, go for it and hit like. Apparently that's what people say in these things, right? So, we have a small piece of...
Film history.
Film history.
Mm-hmm. Film history with 3 picks that we're going to rank from 3rd place to 1st place. And I can't wait for this one, Karin.
Alright, well, the order in which we watched them goes as follows. We started with Gravedancers.
Mm-hmm. By Mike Mendez, and we've seen one of his movies before, which we reviewed.
Yeah, he sounds
I Know
familiar.
What You Watched Last Week. It was the movie Killers.
Oh, no. Okay, that explains a lot. So, anyway, the second film we watched was called...
House of the Dead.
House of the Dead by Uwe Boll.
By Uwe Boll.
Who we've also
We're
watched
back
and
to the Boll.
reviewed. And it was, again, a game adaptation.
Yeah, because once you do one game adaptation,
say
you're the go-to guy.
Yeah. And finally,
No matter what you
we
produce.
watched a movie called 1.0.
Yeah, it's also known as it's one of those movies that's known as something else as well, which I don't recall the title. It's pretty similar to 1.0. But that's what we'll call it. 3, 2, 1. What have you got?
Oh, God. Okay, I guess...
You guess?
Yeah.
This isn't the guessing game.
Well, how do you rank 3 different turds? That's my question. That's what I want to know. Not the worst we've watched, though, I have to say that, but still,
No.
my God, pretty terrible. I'm going to put 1.0... Actually, no. Yeah, 1.0 goes in last place. Then it's Gravedancers. And then it's House of the Dead.
Yes! I celebrate even though that's not my order, but,
God.
you know, you're coming around
to
to
Uwe Boll.
Raging Ball. Yeah.
Alright, so what's your order then?
My order is number 3, Gravedancers. Number 2, House of the Dead. Number 1... What's it called again? 1.0. 1.0. Yeah. So your bottom pick is my top pick.
Yeah, we've clearly decided to rank them based on different things, I suppose.
Well, that's what made it hard to rank these, because there's different reasons that I could have put even Gravedancers number 1. Maybe not. But certainly House of the Dead. So what should we start with? Gravedancers.
Yeah, we might as well do it in order of viewing in this case. Yeah.
By Mike Mendez, starring Dominic Purcell, who is in something called Prison Break, which I haven't seen, but more than aware of. He plays the lawyer guy in this.
Oh, in this, I was going to
Yeah.
say, yeah, because I found that really weird casting. So if you're about to tell me that he plays a lawyer in the other one as well, I was like, that's really bizarre.
Criminal.
Yeah, okay, I can see that kind of more. But anyway.
So what do you think about Gravedancers? Where did you put this? Second, yes, it was second place. You were in last place for me.
Yeah, this... Okay, yeah, so I thought the casting was a bit odd. And there were many questions to be had regarding the story and so-called after effects of actions taken. It's also got a scene where they're supposed to be having a great time, and it's one of the most awkward things I've ever seen.
Gravedancers opens, if you remember, with a woman who's being chased by an unseen entity, and she ends up being hanged, and she's swaying back and forth in like a stairwell.
Oh yeah, I have no idea how that
looked
ties
pretty
into
weird.
anything, but yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really tie into much, but what I found out is the woman who's hanging is the director's wife, and he had a problem with shooting that scene, didn't want to do it, but the producers insisted because they needed the audience to know right away that this is a horror movie. So we got to pop that in there. And
I wouldn't have known otherwise.
He refused to film it, so he left it to some other geezer to do it. And recently I've seen you been blown away in some multi-million-dollar movie where you play a terrorist, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I don't know what his problem is with seeing his missus hanging to death.
Be like some sort of weird therapy, really. But yeah,
So he's missed a trick there because he could have directed that.
that was totally random, because then the next thing that happens is that we go to some completely unrelated person's funeral.
You're at the funeral, and then we get introduced to all the main characters. So we've got Harris, who is the lawyer. We've got his wife, Alison. Then there's a lady there called Kira, and another guy who is like the loser called Sid.
Yeah.
And Sid turns up late. The other three are already there, and they're at a funeral for their friend. So it's a reunion of sorts, because they don't seem to have seen each other for a long while.
Well, actually, I think the whole point was that Sid, the last one that we get introduced to, he doesn't actually come to the funeral. He comes to, like,
he just comes to the wake.
Drinks. Yeah.
Right.
After drinks, yes, the
wake.
wake.
We do see the funeral at the beginning, don't we?
And the three of them, clearly old friends, you know.
And Sid's chuffed to see everybody.
Him to it.
Yeah, she clears off.
She clears off and is like, you need this time. Even though he didn't even want to go to the wake in the first place, she convinced him. And then 2 seconds later, she's like, right, see you later, honey. I'm going to bugger off.
She walks into the house and walks out of the house. And she should not have left her husband alone with Kira.
Who we later find out apparently has been, you know, has a history of stalking him and calling out the blue or being obsessive.
So we go from this wake, and the three of them go to the bar. So they sit around at the bar for a while. And Sid is still not satisfied by this, and he gets up. He has like, I guess I'll see you guys the next time one of us dies, because he wants more of a you know, a celebration, if you want, of their friend's life. So he wanders off to the graveyard by himself.
Well, he's tried to convince the other two.
He's tried to convince them to carry on. So he's gone to the graveyard by himself. For some reason, that's the place to party. So he's there. He ends up kind of like fannying about, but then the other two show up with him. Yeah. And he's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I thought you said we had to say a proper goodbye. And they start drinking next to their deceased friend's grave. Sid, you know, even pours one out for his friend. He's like, hey, you better not drink too much. You're going to feel like shit in the morning. Harris and Kira then walk away from this, you know, drinking reunion with their friend in the grave. And they leave Sid there. And Sid catches up with them in a little bit. And he's all excited. Really excited because he's found this note on the grave. Remember the note?
Yes, I remember the note. It's supposedly the reason everything starts to happen.
The note has a rhyme. It's a cursed note. I haven't written the whole rhyme because, oh my word, it was hard to hear.
I thought it rocked.
Yeah, it starts off something along the lines of, you know, oh joyful, oh delighted, oh fortunate one, and it goes into a bunch of other guff and finishes along the lines of life's for the living, not for the dead. Live tomorrow, live now instead.
So anyway, the gist of this note, as Sid takes it, is that let's celebrate our life.
That's some good writing though. We're not far into the movie yet, and we've already got an unnecessary hanging. Thanks to the producers. So at least the director was right there. So we absolutely do not need that. And the movie's not really got going yet because.
Have you just cut me off to start blabbering and not even know where you're going?
Great stuff.
I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
And then
you seem to just be
I was struck by your beauty, and it distracted me.
That's so fake.
You've frazzled my mind.
Anyway, the gist of this note with this fantastic poem on it, one for the ages, basically makes Sid convince the other two that they should all have a party, like just really go nuts and dance on the grave in the rain.
Sid says, I found this note, and bam, it's like how we're living tonight. And he convinces that for 1 minute, or less than 1 minute, you know, Harris and Kira are absolutely not interested in dancing whatsoever. And then he just switched like that. Because Sid puts on a boombox playing some crap punk.
I was literally about to ask. I was like, was there actually like music for them, or were they supposed to? Okay.
There was music, but it was kind of like drowned out just by the vision of the three of them dancing on the graves.
And let's not forget, Sid starts singing the little rhyming poem out loud as they're dancing, and you know, as you do when you're dancing on a grave somewhere,
as you do, yeah,
in the rain. The natural thing
Kira
to
thinks
do,
it's cool. She encourages Sid to do it. Yeah.
The natural thing to do is each split off and go kind of dance in your own area. That's the point of that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they do. And they each end up dancing on quite distant graves from one another, I would say.
After they finish, you know, dancing over these graves disrespectfully, they then get back to a regular life. Harris wakes up and he's got to go lawyering. And I've already taken a dislike to Harris.
Well, he also snogged Kira.
It's not nothing to do with that. He's at the wake and he's wearing a black suit and black shoes with white socks. It's absolutely disgusting to me and unforgivable. It's like the least cool thing just in existence is white socks with black dress shoes, black trousers, black blazer. How am I supposed to like him when he's dressed like this? It makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
They're also, just with his performance and countenance...
Are you just going to let that slide?
No.
Would you let me go outside with white socks and black dress shoes in a suit?
Well, I don't think I can control what
it would never happen.
But...
It would never happen anyway, but I hope you'd have something to say about it.
Apart from his...
So I hate him.
Fashion oversight.
I absolutely hate him.
He also just didn't read as someone who was, like, responsible, high-flying lawyer. I wasn't buying that.
They don't live in such a big house or anything. But something to do with the house, once he goes out lawyering and his wife is left in the house, it really reminded me of Insidious. And that's not a joke, because she starts getting haunted by noises and things of this nature, and she actually gets physically haunted by something in her bed, stuff like this. But the sepia tone that they've gone from, this is way before Insidious, and I'm convinced that Lee Wan-el and James Wan sat down and watched this movie and said, this is what we need in Insidious to make it a worldwide franchise. And I've got to say, I think, even though this movie was pretty poor, the wife did a good job of being haunted in that house, I thought. Mm-hmm. She stood out as the actor in all of this.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, along with...
As well as, noises, we also get sexual noises are also haunting the house. Sexual noises are haunting his wife, and she thinks that she's going to find Harris having sex with Kira, which she suspects him of, and he has been doing. She calls him out.
Yeah.
And it's her fault for leaving that wake.
It's her fault.
It's her fault.
Yeah, so the next thing that I remember, unless you had something specific, was when they go...
It's just more milling about the house.
So, at one point when Harris is actually home, when they get, like, haunted and... his wife freaks out.
They get insidious.
And she thinks that Kira has been up to her old stalkering ways and has broken into the house.
And been calling the house and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and being weird. So she's like, right, we're going to go over to Kira's house.
Yeah, I do have something to say before we get to Kira's house, actually.
Okay.
While Harris has been at the house by himself, he's been doing some DIY. And his wife comes home, and he's been putting up an alarm, which is a general alarm. It's like beige coloured. And she's like, hey, what have you been doing? He's like, just been putting up this alarm. She's like, it looks great. Like he's like been putting in chandeliers, or he's made a mural on the wall or something like that. He just put up an alarm system. She thinks it just looks artistic.
Spick and span. Beautiful work.
Yeah. So they, like you say, they think they're being haunted by Kira possibly in the house. So they go to Kira's.
Yeah, and this I found so bizarre. So they turn up at a house and don't seem to react to the fact that it looks like it's been abandoned for about 20 years. I mean, it's dishevelled.
It's dilapidated.
Yeah, it's terrible. And then no one answers when they're banging on the door or whatever, so they go inside.
As you do.
And again, like, the state of this place...
There's no electricity or anything. They've got to use their torches.
There's stuff, like, dripping. And I just thought, forget about thinking this woman might be cheating with your husband. Look at the state she's living in. Help her out, please. But anyway, they do. They find her, like, curled up in fear or something in her bathtub and take her to hospital.
Before they find her in the tub, there's loads of writing on the wall.
Right.
In the house. And Harris's wife says, "What is that on the wall?" And Harris says, "I don't know. Writing."
And the award goes to the lawyer. That is so dumb.
Yeah, so she pops out of them before they find her in the tub. So there's like a jump scare of her popping out. Yeah, then he goes in to investigate, and the next thing you know, flash to a hospital.
Yeah, but again, it's not that interesting. It turns out she's been, like, physically assaulted and sexually also. Yeah,
the graves they've been dancing on have been...
Whoa. Rewind. No, not yet. But no assailant has been found or anything. Then the next thing that happens is those three friends somehow end up at this house
No.
where Sid is.
What?
This is when they find out, though.
I know. What happens, but when they get to the hospital, though, there's one more cool bit. When Harris's wife is in the corridor of the hospital and there's a cadaver underneath a white sheet, all the blood starts running, coming through the sheet, and she gets jump scared, grabbed. That was quite nicely done.
And it was just a vision. There was actually
just a vision,
no one there.
Nothing to do with the story or anything like that.
And also a nurse who goes in to help Kira gets assaulted by some invisible force. But anyway, so all the friends meet up because Sid is at this house. But it's not Sid's house, is it?
It's Sid's first, and then they go to Cache. So they go to Sid's house.
By the way, Sid has somehow managed to find these two people who are like paranormal investigators.
He opens the door to Harris and his wife, and he says, "You got to be careful because the thermal sensors are on." That's the first thing he says. Then we're introduced to Vincent Cache and his assistant from the Paris Psychology Institute. Her name is Frances, and they are there as ghost hunters because Sid believes and feels he's being haunted. So then they all sit down together, and Vincent Cache and Frances interview them, asking about what they've been doing. And they confess to the grave dancing. And Frances is like, "You guys danced on graves?" She's in disbelief.
Yeah, the disrespect. Shocking. Yeah, so then they find out...
Vincent Cache is a bit like the Jacques Cousteau of ghost hunting, by the way.
Yeah. So then, supposedly, they've invoked some kind of curse or whatever, that because they danced on a grave, and it just so happened to be in the area of the graveyard where criminals and stuff were kept. So, let's go through this. They're always kept together. So, the most attacked one so far, clearly, is Kira. Mm-hmm. And it turns out hers is some, like, disgusting old man pervert who, was, like, a doctor or something in real life, but then when he died, they found out he'd been doing all sorts of atrocious things. Then you've got Harris, which is some woman who I think murdered her husband when she found him cheating.
She's an axe murderer.
Something along those lines.
Jealous axe murderer.
So she obviously wants Harris now, or thinks, that's her.
Maybe she enjoyed husband. The white sock, black suit combo.
And finally, we've got Sid's ghost, which is a little boy.
A little boy arsonist.
Arsonist, who may or may not have intentionally burnt himself and his family down to the ground in their house. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of these things are later on shown as a different entity, and they look like kind of like giant paper mache heads. But the little child arsonist was hilarious when he came out of the flames.
So funny. So I have a little question to interject here for you. Mm. If you had to dance on one of these three graves and be haunted by one of these three, who would you pick?
Well, we've got the little child arsonist, the sexual assaulter, and
the husband,
the axe murderer. I'll take my chance against a little kid, I guess, and I can put out fires.
I was going to say, for me, it's no question. It was like, someone is... I mean, you definitely don't want Kira's. His is so obvious, you don't want that. She's also the most beaten up by all of them. But, like, with the little arsonist one, if you just keep your, fire extinguisher handy... He doesn't seem to do much else. He just tries to sort of light fires around you.
Little shit.
Yeah.
So they go from Sid's house then to Vincent Cache's very impressive house.
Which is all cammed up everywhere to catch evidence.
And Frances busts out the books a la Velma and starts reading off the explanations as to why this is happening. And the three of them are told eventually there's not a lot you can do about it. So Sid's like, so we gotta live with this forever? And then Vincent Cache is like, no, there are a couple of things you can do. Apparently the curse only lasts for 1 moon. Not many moons, just 1 moon, which is apparently a month. And they're already about 3 weeks in at this point. And that's another thing, that the timelines get jumping everywhere. One minute it's like, oh, it's 3 weeks later. Oh, it's another week after that. And
this is what I wanted to interject again, because I found that so strange. It sounds like we're quite a way into the movie, but we're actually not. Yeah, the grave dancing bit lasted way longer than it should have done. But then... we get to Cache's house pretty quickly.
Not like that.
And yeah, instantly they're like, oh, well, you're over 3 weeks through the haunting, so you've barely, haven't got to get through much more. And I was like, they didn't show enough haunting for that to be the case.
I did like that the haunting expires after a month. Like, it's almost like a send-back policy.
Time's up.
If you survive this month, then we'll just leave you alone.
But no one survived.
The only other alternative is if they can't survive this voyage, they can get it done quickly by reburying the corpses of the people whose grave they've danced upon.
I also thought that the whole point of that in particular was that because they were in that part of the graveyard that's for undesirables or whatever,
Yeah.
I thought the point was moving them somewhere where they would be happy and where it's like consecrated ground.
Which apparently is anywhere.
Which again, yeah, they don't stick with. Because at first when they go, you know, the three of them each have to bury their own skeleton.
Yeah, one each. That's fair.
They do, so yeah, when they dig them up, first of all, we do get some nice little like gross shots of the remains being taken out of the coffins. And we get quite a few attempts of reanimation trying to stop this from happening. And then they do seem to have like holy water or something that they're splashing on the new makeshift graves.
That's just good sense to bring holy water around with you.
Yeah, from your local supplier.
Mm-hmm.
And after they've buried them, they go back to Cachet's house because stuff is still happening.
Well, when they're digging the graves to rebury the corpses as well, one of the corpses jumps out at Harris. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it's like an animatronic corpse almost. So
yeah, the effects
it's a fight for the ages.
Just keep getting better in this movie.
And so when they bury those bodies, that's at night time. But like I say, it doesn't work. So they go back to Cachet's.
Yeah.
And Cachet's like, I didn't say that it wouldn't haunt you again. And
But they've only got one
they then
day
just
left.
start again.
They've literally got like one night. So Francis convinces them that they should stay together in the house and just, you know, work their way through. And throughout this last...
When they go back to Cachet's, Harris has been haunted by a big-faced paper mache entity in his bed who he thinks is his wife hugging him. And everyone just has these giant teeth.
Yeah, like massive smile.
Giant teeth and paper mache
things.
heads.
Strange choice.
I thought the raper guy paper head mache thing was quite creepy, but when they applied it to every single other one...
Yeah, with a kid especially, it did not work.
The little
it didn't
kid.
work. Because, of course, you know what's going to happen in a movie like this. It's their last night, and they all end up somehow or other being, like, separated, and their entities are still trying to get them. And Sid, I think Sid does get burnt up, doesn't he?
Yeah, Sid...
The little kid gets him.
The little kid gets him. That's when he walks out of the fire. And then we see Sid behind a wall of flame flailing about like, no! No! It's a very effective death scene there. And that just was par for the course for Sid's performance. That was a hell of a performance that this guy put in for Sid.
Yeah. And there's all these attacks going on. And when it's all at the climax of why is this still going on, Francis brings out a sack with the 3 skulls of the deceased.
She wanted to keep him for a souvenir.
No, she didn't. she didn't want the curse to be over because she wanted to capture paranormal evidence on her video system. So she thought, well, I'll steal the 3 skulls. How did she manage to do that, by the way, with no one noticing?
Well, a sleight of hand or something like that.
But she managed to steal the 3 skulls.
I don't know how she did it in the daytime either.
And
with the sun bearing down.
So, of course, you know, if the whole body hasn't been buried, then the curse is still going. And she's so sorry.
Vincent Cachet is very disappointed in her. And the other people are just, you know, really pissed at her. And, you know, like I say, you put in that stellar performance there. And it's another Velma moment.
It was, well, I don't know. Velma would never be so silly.
No, it's
but,
crap Velma.
But this also, during all of this time...
They're at Cachet's house, and also Sid and Harris are having a heart-to-heart, as well as Kira and Alicia, if that's her name.
Everyone has their, you know, we might die soon,
and
while the
two girls are having their heart-to-heart, Kira confesses to Harris's wife, she's like, oh no, I don't want him, and he told me that he loves you, yada yada yada, and she's like, and haven't you heard, I've got a new man in my life, referring to her entity sexual assaulter, and the girls just kind of like laugh it off. That was a strange touch.
That was really bizarre. I was like, I don't feel like it's the moment to be joking about
and
it.
She's
when you're not
really taken a battering as well in this. It was quite effective the way that she's attacked by her entity. So fair play again to the house hauntings. The first paper mache head guy. After that, it was ruined, and yeah, the absolute, you know, kicking that Harris's wife takes in this. Kira.
Yeah, that's not his wife.
Alicia also gets attacked though by the raper, doesn't she? And it doesn't end up very well for her.
I think, yeah, they all just start attacking whoever they can get to. And also during this time, so after you would ask, you know, well, now that they know why this is still going on, they've got the 3 skulls, all they need to do is bury it. But somehow these entities have managed to conjure a fence that goes all around the entire house and comes closer and closer.
Yeah. It becomes like House on Haunted Hill.
It's weird. I did not get why that was like, how can we
Well,
keep the people in this property?
it's
I
just a
know,
way to
let's
keep the
get a
film
massive
going.
fence around
Yeah, which
it.
has no explanation beforehand or therefore after. Anything like that. It just happens and they're all like okay with it. Oh look, the bars are
There's
coming
a
up the
fence
house.
right
they're
there.
coming up the house now. What
so
can we do?
strange.
Mm.
And in the end, who is it? Only Harris and...
Kira ends up
Kush-
being killed. Yeah.
Yeah, Kira ends up being offed.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow they do manage to get
Francis
out of
is
this fenced
axed.
house.
Frances gets axed,
Yeah.
so she doesn't survive either. Well, before they get out of the house, the entity turns into a giant turquoise see-through face, which pursues Harris and his wife in a pickup truck. And while they escape the face, they don't escape the giant turquoise hand, which grabs Harris and drags him away. And just when you think he's dead, he appears at the end along with his wife and Vincent Cachet, who has managed to, I think, throw
like
the
you
last
just went right
the
through
last piece of the jaw into the hole. And Vincent Cachet at the end is, you know, he quips along the lines of, "Somebody get me a hospital? Is there a doctor?"
Yeah, what a moment.
Yeah, did you like the big face and big hand?
That actually
Were you
reminded me a bit of
expecting
House
that?
on Haunted Hill, when there's like that entity. Yeah, that always kills any fear for me, is when they have terrible CGI. It was pretty painful.
There was also a lot of shots of a Cheer Wine vending machine in this. And I'm like, are they sponsored by Cheer Wine? I've only ever heard of Cheer Wine in that Jermaine Jackson song. You know, we don't have to take our clothes off, we can drink some Cheer Wine. And this is the first time I've ever seen it. Why was that there? Normally you get some other random stuff. I didn't think stuff even existed anymore. Do you have to pay extra money to get a Cheer Wine vending machine? It was unique. What is Cheer Wine?
So, overall ending thoughts about this movie from you then, because I kind of started with mine.
Stupid. Really stupid, and but really good for a laugh. Really good for a laugh. When you see them dancing on the graves, that's something to behold. I've never seen such an idiotic scene, I don't think. It kind of... Was this movie even more nonsensical than Killers? I mean, this guy has got form now. We've seen 2 of his movies in a row. I did like all the lighting and stuff like that, which I also enjoyed in Killers. So he has got some kind of thing there.
Well, of the 2, I preferred this film.
What the hell was it? Yeah, I definitely preferred this
more
film.
fun.
It's not like I wouldn't watch this again. I would, if I saw it on or whatever, I would just start laughing, especially at Sid. Yeah, bottom place, but not absolutely terrible. I'd still rather watch this than Nosferatu. This is way more entertaining than that.
This was my second place, but...
Yeah, well, there you go. So you must be
I found
loving it even more than
entertainment in
I
it,
was.
yeah.
So yeah,
that big face at the end.
absolutely do not
and the big face
dislike this film.
headbutts their truck as they're like driving out as well.
Maybe Mike Mendes, his ways in it's working its way into my heart. Maybe I enjoy his work. It's got another one after this, I think, called Convent. So that should be good.
So if we're going chronologically, that means that the Uwe Boll, House of the
House
Dead.
of the Dead.
Where do we...
Sega adaptation. His first Hollywood movie. $12 million budget. Yeah.
Dear Lord, can we just start with the beginning with that guy's like...
Well, no, that's not the beginning. That is not the beginning. The beginning is instant hardcore trance. And I was just thinking to myself, like, how German to have instant hardcore trance.
Oh, Uwe.
Then we get our guy Rudy, our lead guy Rudy, who seemed to remind you of Andrew Garfield.
He did in that first thing.
Karin does not enjoy being reminded of Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, this guy was, from the very first moment, I kind of disliked him. He was really
that's
annoying.
because we've just had that instant trance opening. Then the camera, zooms in on him sitting on some like ruin, and we get an instant voiceover. I know you like voiceovers. And it starts off with him saying, "It was a nightmare. So many people dead. I came here for a rave. Now what is left is the rotten smell of death. Then we go back to trance for the opening credits. So we get another 5 minutes of hardcore trance. So we've got trance, voiceover of a guy who's like doing a bad audition for Sin City or something like that.
There's a lot of
back to trance openings. And also, it's not just, you know, your general run-of-the-mill credits, because the credits are also graced by not just trance, but also a Mr. Max Wanko. So thank you, Mr. Max Wanko, and that fantastic name. Then, so look, we've gone trance, voiceover, trance. So what's next? Voiceover. We're back to Rudy, and he's continuing his voiceover, and this voiceover is needed because he's introducing the rest of the cast, and we get Greg and Simon. Greg's the guy I played ball with in college, a good guy, if not a little goofy. Remember him? Mm-hmm. Then we got Simon. He's got the looks, but not much between those ears. Cynthia, Greg's girlfriend, pure eye candy. And that's Calmer. She thinks she's Foxy Brown, has a crush on Simon, but Simon only has eyes for Alicia, my ex. We broke up a few weeks ago, so I could study, and she could fence. She loves it, but I don't see what it's good for.
What the hell? Yeah.
So they broke up because his missus wanted to fence.
This movie, the reason I actually put it in first place is it's so bizarre and nonsensical, but it feels totally like a game. And just like, in what world would be like...
What games have you been playing?
We broke up because she wanted to go fencing. Like, that's not real life.
What an original excuse for breaking up, though, fencing. You know, I can't dedicate time to our relationship.
That sounds like
I've got a fence.
Fat excuse
I
to
have
me.
to fence. It sounds like she's run
I
through
love to fence.
She's run
I
through a
need
whole
to fence.
host of other excuses to break up with him, but he hasn't taken it well, so she's just like, forget about the trouble,
Yeah.
just stay with him. Now what can I use now? Well, I've
got
got
a
a fence. You've got to study, and I've got a fence. And you might think it's useless, but, you know, I don't.
Most rubbish breakup of all time.
And she's not offensive for any reason. We don't get back to anything to do with fencing, or for that matter, why Karma is like Foxy Brown. Why is she like Foxy Brown?
No, I have no idea.
There's nothing about her. So then we swiftly move on then to like a shot of some rave titties. Rave titties and a Sega sign in the background, because it's a Sega game, of course, House of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And then we're back again to the guys who have just been introduced by Rudy. Rudy's not with them at this point. Mm. They're all standing on, you know, the dock of the bay, and they've missed their boat to the rave of the century. The whole point is, the reason that, you know, they end up at the House of the Dead is that is where this giant rave is taking place. The rave of the century, the rave of the year. And they've missed the boat there, but luckily for them, there's another boat just waiting for them.
Good lord, yeah. First of all, tardiness annoys me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially when it's the rave of the year, the rave of the century.
And they missed it by 5 minutes, and they weren't even in a rush. I was like, that's your bad. But then the jock guy or whatever he was, he starts to
well, you got Greg and Simon.
wander onto some fishing boat,
mm-hmm.
and starts shouting out, hello, hello. And who turns up? They're like the most cliched little like...
Are you talking about Salish?
Yes. So if you have ever watched Scooby-Doo, especially like the classic old school ones, and if they ever have like a fisherman sailor character, they'll be wearing that like yellow big hat and matching coat.
I feel like it was a child's sailor's uniform that Salish was wearing, and he's also got a hook hand. He's got a hook for a hand.
He's got a hook hand.
And he's not all there.
The acting was...
Yeah.
Oh.
Because they ask him, you know, can you take us to this island? He's like, you crazy? You crazy, Shiva? You crazy?
Why? They always ask me why.
And the captain of the boat comes out, Jürgen Proncho. I'm not quite sure how to say his name, but he's in Das Boot.
Okay.
Das Booty. And he is apparently called Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
So he's manning the boat. He's Captain Kirk, and he doesn't like Captain Kirk jokes. So either Greg or Simon, I think it's Simon, tries to bribe him like $600 to take him to the island. He's like, no way. It's known as Island de la Muerte. And that's when Sadish is like, yeah, that means the dead. Or don't you speak Mexican? Yeah. So the performance continues. So then they up it from 600 to $1,000, and then they finally decide to take him.
Well, actually,
to the island.
The nail in the coffin for Captain Kirk to decide to take the money and run is when like a customs officer or something tries to stop him.
He's been pursued by the law.
And so, yeah, he obviously
Casper,
takes
her
the
name
moment to leave and go
No,
to this island.
he almost doesn't leave because he then says to Simon, "Oh no, I can't leave. Look, the law's after me." So then that makes Simon offer him even more money.
But that's the only reason
then
he
he
said
clears
it. He
off.
was going to go anyway.
He said, "I would have done this for free." So he's robbed Simon not once, not twice, but thrice.
And then told him about it. But then it's Simon's fault as well. He's a bit of an idiot.
But
so.
Casper is in stealthy pursuit of Captain Kirk's boat because it seems like they have had a history of like a smuggling back and forth. He's been trying to smuggle goods into wherever the hell he is, Canada.
Just trying to
He's
nail
in Canada, trying to smuggle goods into Canada, and Casper, the little one's trying to get him. So they end up at the island, and before we see them, we're introduced to a rave girl and her kind of date, and they go to a secluded beach. Mm-hmm. And at this beach, at the rave of the century, I can't hear any rave music in the background beating anywhere, so he must be quite far away from the rave. Anyway, she decides to go kind of skinny dipping. He doesn't want to go in because it's too cold. Yeah, I mean, what kind of a decision is that? She's just taken her top off, and he's like, "I don't want to go in. The water's too cold. I'm just going to lay here on the stones." So it seems like then the filmmakers kind of like didn't know how to build up to what's going to happen next. So instead, they just filmed her tits underwater, above water, and in between the pair of them. There's just a lot of just her floating around with tits. She ends up getting out of the water, and as she's turned around, her date's gone. He's mysteriously disappeared. So she puts her clothes back on, and she's the first one who ends up in the House of the Dead. So she finds the House of the Dead.
Yeah.
And she goes in there, and her date's in there. And he's already dead because these red-eyed zombies have put their hands through his torso, and then she's taken down. So she's a completely... we don't need to know about these characters, but she's just been there to be killed.
Yeah, they're just trying to introduce something to it, aren't they, like you said? But I wanted to ask you, because I've never played House of the Dead, and you said that you have some experience with it?
It came with guns. How could you turn it down?
That sounds fun. Mm-hmm. So I can only assume that a lot of the, like, weird film decisions were made because it matches up with the game.
Are you talking about them just interspersing frames of the game into the movie?
That's not what I was talking about, but that happens as well.
It must happen at least 30 times. They just intersperse a scene from the game with like these old school graphics of a zombie being blown away. I
have to assume from, the fact that they keep doing that, amongst other things, that surely this had to be for proper fans of the game.
Well, no, but I mean, you're a fan of the game because you just get to blow zombies away. It's a lot of fun. You've got to make your way through the House of the Dead. It's like Resident Evil or whatever.
It's kind of nothing like that.
With less of a story.
Really,
no, it's not. So it's more like Island of the Dead because they're mostly hanging out on the island.
Mostly.
And this, by the way, this house, which Bikini Girl is the first one to get to after her date, the outside of the house is pretty small. And yet every time people then end up at the house and go inside, it's like cavernous. It's cavernous. It's a mansion.
It's a complex.
So that didn't make any sense. But we haven't even got anywhere into the movie. So now after she's now been off with her date, we're now back to our gang, and they've arrived now at this deserted island. And on this island, which is supposed to be host to the rave of the year,
and they're late, by the way, so everyone should be there.
Some tents, a makeshift stage, and a porta potty, and that's it. We won't go to porta potty just yet.
No, and it's also half torn down, and there's no one there. There's no music playing.
There's blood-stained shirts all over the floor.
And literally, only one of them
mentions it.
What's she called? The ex?
She's Alicia.
Anyway, Alicia, or what? Yeah. So she's the only one to be like, shouldn't there be like hundreds of people here and some music and stuff instead of just bloody tattered rags on the floor? But everyone else seems totally chill with this.
Yeah, Greg and Simons find the unattended free booze, and that's good enough for them.
That's good enough for them. As long as there's a keg, they're like, yeah.
We should also mention that when they are ferried across on the boat, Greg has been seasick the entire time. He's also thrown up on his girlfriend Cynthia. Mm-hmm. And just as they get off the boat, he's still got chunks on his face. So Cynthia wipes the chunks off his face. As we just said, they arrive at the island. Dumb stuff like that happens. And the next thing we see is Cynthia and Greg on stage making out. I'm like, he just had chunks wiped. You wiped the chunks from his face, and now you're letting him like all over you.
Right.
And for some reason, the other three
I think they're trying to find out what the hell has
Karma,
happened.
Alicia, and Simon all walk off.
Yeah, because
As they're walking off,
what's going on?
and
the couple decide with eye candy decide to stay and
they decide to stay and
party the two of them.
No, they leave the stage and Greg takes Cynthia to one of these makeshift tents, which again has abysmal set dressing accompanied by more abysmal music. He throws Cynthia down on a makeshift bed
on a poof,
and he then decides to say, "Hubbly bubbly, baby, hubbly bubbly," and then gets on top of her, and then that really turns her on, and they go at it. Remember Hubbly bubbly, baby?
Dear Lord. I mean, he
Hubbly
said a lot
bubbly.
of weird-ass things.
But before that scene can mature even further, Greg has to take a whiz, and then luckily for him, the porta potty is there. So we've now seen Greg wander off to the porta potty.
But that's not the important thing, because we see Alicia then waiting for him, getting more and more scared.
Cynthia.
Yeah, Cynthia. And we start seeing these like weird shadows outside the tent.
Yeah, there's zombies running through the forest, and that shot is used a multitude of times in the film. Just the same shot of zombies running through the forest. That's how you know they're coming. That's the cue that the Uwe Boll gives you. So as the other three have wandered off. So we've got Alicia, Simon, and Foxy. Foxy. The other wants to be Foxy Brown. They've now come to this tiny house, and as they're in there, they're kind of like accosted by a really scared Rudy, who's now in the movie after his voiceover, and his friend Liberty. And Liberty is dressed head to toe in American Star Spangled Banger. No, not Union Jack. American flag spandex.
Spangle Banger.
Spangled Banger spandex. Yeah. And her name is Liberty.
Lady
Did you get
Liberty.
That? Mm. And while they freak out.
There's another dude there as well, isn't there? There's not just the two.
Yeah, there is some other guy. I haven't noted his name.
Unimportant, but there were more people. Yeah.
And what the crew inside the house decide to show.
Oh no, it is important. Sorry, because the other guy that's in there with Rudy and Liberty is the guy that's obsessed with filming everything. So it's his festival titty that we saw earlier.
Right. Yeah.
And then he's showing.
How can I forget that?
He's showing our group of characters on his little video camera
what happened when the festival's zombie infestation
infiltrated by all these zombies.
Yeah, so they're all watching it on this little camcorder screen. So they've just gone into the house and now they decide to leave the house, and as previously been mentioned at the beginning, Alicia is Rudy's ex. Now Rudy has seen Alicia talking to Simon. So when they get outside, Rudy asks her about him, and then we as the audience are informed that he is the hottest #1 underwear model in all of America. So take that, Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it steamy enough for you? Yeah. You've got #1 underwear model at the rave of the century.
Yeah.
So then, as that's revealed, they then find Greg in the overturned porta potty.
Yeah. Yeah, you jumped ahead, but my God, so they go back to get their friends to then get the whole group down to the ship to leave the island. And they're like, where the hell is he? And yes, they hear noises from a overturned porta potty. So they open it and it's on its side and he comes bursting out. Now, just bear with me for a second here, guys, because I couldn't concentrate for the whole rest of this film. He's just come out the toilet. His outfit is a pair of jeans, and he's got a t-shirt on and the shirt over that. And in a tree somewhere he finds a rag that I'm assuming was not too bloody, and he's like, dabbing to get some shit off of his face.
Yeah, but he said his entire shirt is obviously shit stained.
He's
and he has a literal
in
smudge of crap on his face.
But this is I'm getting there. So he's like, using this towel. And he throws it away like, yeah, I'm done with that now. And he's still got crap on his face.
And no one seems that bothered by it.
And as I mentioned, he has a shirt on over his tank top
undershirt.
Or something. I was like,
why do you take off?
Because I take it off, and it's not. I've never wanted a man to take his shirt off more.
So for the rest of the movie, we'll come back to it. But yeah, he's just in this shirt. So as they've now found him in his shit-covered clothes. And
But
while
she
he's
just
been
stays
gone,
in.
Cynthia has been turned into a zombie. But luckily, Casper's here now.
Yeah, Casper turns
So
up.
Casper blows her away, and also
Casper
Kirk's here
seems
now.
super calm.
Well, she's seen it all before, it seems. Kirk's also here now, who's also seen it all before.
Yeah.
And we get more about their kind of their nemesis, kind of nature of their relationship.
Well,
They're
Kirk
each
is
other's
there
nemesis.
because we found out that the zombies can swim.
Well, yeah,
And
because again, they decide to split up again.
Not only can no, this is just when Kirk's on the boat.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying.
only can
Kirk's
they-
with them, and then Kirk is on the boat by himself, so he's split from them again.
Well,
and then
it's
he comes
not,
back.
it's not really important, but the zombies are shown holding their breath whilst they're swimming, which I found
As
interesting. For
you
the
would have to
undead.
do as a zombie, otherwise you're going to drown.
And gasping for breath when they come up. Is now also a good time to mention the physicality of these zombies?
Yeah, I was literally about to say it. Uwe Boll doesn't give a crap, does he? They're just milling about and struggling to climb over like fences or whatever is getting in their way
and-
with no kind of semblance of any kind of like zombie animation. It's just a human being in makeup.
There was some definite like
I enjoyed it.
leprechaun style jumping over stuff as well, and yeah, I mean, I struggle to think why people like this, like Uwe Boll, like why do they want to go into making films if you care so little about like performances and stuff? It makes no sense to me.
Well, who gives a damn about performances when you're making, art?
Oh, also a great thing about these zombies is that you can shoot them like a regular person and that stops them.
Mm-hmm. So Kirk, by the way, has split from the rest of the group because he decides that he can't find Salish, so he's like, I'm just going to get back on my boat and go away, and that's why he's then attacked by the swimming zombies, and he blows them all away by smoking a cigar.
He does that.
At the same time, Simon, I believe, decides to run down the dock and jump into the zombie-infested waters, followed by
What an
Liberty
idiot.
and probably someone else, and they struggle for a while until the zombies are then taken out by both Casper and Captain Kirk with their guns.
And it turns out, luckily, so we mentioned earlier that Casper is chasing Kirk for smuggling reasons, and Kirk unloaded all his
Ammo.
smuggled goods onto the island, which is cigars, guns, and ammunition. Very practical.
So a zombie, while he's blown away all these swimming zombies on his boat, and now he's back with the crew again after getting on the boat because Salish isn't with him, we then get the zombie that spews on Simon's face, and it burns one side of his face.
Yeah, so they've all gotten back onto shore, like you said, and this zombie corpse is on the floor, and yeah, Simon, did you say Simon? This model
Yeah,
guy,
the underwear model.
he comes running into the shop and starts like kicking and berating the corpse of this thing, and he's like, "Ah, you stupid thing!" And then it turns around and just spews up on his face.
On my face! So his face is now being burnt. So the rest of the crew decides to just kind of like reconvene and decide what to do next because they know now that they're under siege.
And they can't use the boat as they expected because
Exactly.
it's overrun.
So Casper decides to arm some people. She decides to arm Greg, standing there in his crap-covered shirt. And instead of just handing him the gun and letting him
Gingerly.
take it, she gets the gun, presses it against his chest, and like rubs her hand down this shit-stained shirt. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And other people are just standing next to him before this scene happens. I think it's the Foxy Brown wannabe, just standing next to him with like a torch.
I was like,
She must be
everyone get away
whiffing
from
it,
Shit boy.
and everyone just standing next to him like he doesn't smell like a toilet, and he's just there in this brown stained shirt for the rest of the movie. And like you say, it's hard to concentrate on anything else but Greg's poopy clothes.
I mean, there's a reason this was my number one movie. But it's like every time I saw that, I was so baffled that I had to start laughing. It was like, what?
After Greg has been armed, he goes off by himself. And I don't know why he goes off by himself, because then Kirk says, oh yeah, I've got some ammunition and like some supplies and stuff. And his supplies are Cuban cigars,
I just said this.
ammo, and that. But he's got that super gun, hasn't he? Remember, he
Right.
brings out the super gun. And that's what leads us into the near 10-minute blowing away zombie scene.
Yeah, they decide that the safest bet now that they can't leave the island is to hole up in the house and just wait for help, I suppose. So when we get to them at the start of the property line, let's say,
So,
which by the way is
we've
just
been
filled
to the
with
house,
graves,
back out the house. Now we're going back to the house.
going back to
Yeah.
the house, and let's say there's like 10, 20 meters of like
Distance between
between them and the
the
house.
beginning of the rave party area and the house. Yeah.
And Yeah, as you said, we spend about the next 10 minutes seeing each of the characters get their full, like, 360 shot.
Oh yeah, as they're blowing their way through the zombies, you get... So apparently this is the last time this was ever used because it's like set on a vinyl player or something like that and just allowed to spin, and it's considered too dangerous now. But yeah, every single character, we still got at least 7 of them, get an individual 360 shot of them in slow motion blowing things up. And anything that slow motion can be applied to,
Yeah.
it's applied to, whether it's bullets, flips, what's her name, Liberty's doing like Matrix flips and things like this.
They're all fantastic with their weapons and without, to be fair.
Apart from Simon, who doesn't seem to have been briefed beforehand about how to use a firearm, whether in the movie itself or in rehearsals. She's like, pop, 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 pop. So they go through it. So it lasts so long that it starts off with a derivative metal track called House of the Dead.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to blow you away, it's the House of the Dead, for 5 minutes. Then it's not finished yet, so we get back to the trance, and we get 4 minutes of trance music while they continue to blow everyone away. And we get towards the end of this, 8 to 9 minute segment. Unfortunately, Liberty's taking it one step too far, and she starts to get ripped apart by the zombies, and Rudy's looking on. And as this is happening, the camera then goes into Rudy's head like he's having a flashback. But his flashback is of what is happening right now, just with harder trance. The trance was upped.
It's so weird. And the thing with this kind of scene, when you're watching a movie that's like a movie remake of a game, I do expect it to be there. And for their first like minute or two, I was like, yeah, this kind of works. I can see what they're going for. But then as it carried on and on and on and on.
2 songs worth.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
I forgot to mention that before we get to this, 8-10 minute segment of zombie blasting, Kirk has just told the story of Castillo, the evil Spaniard and his crew, and we have a flashback scene. Uwe Boll's crafted a flashback scene, must be in, the 17th
Spanish
century or something like that.
Somewhere.
And we've got the evil Spanish guy, Castillo, explaining to like a tubby, beardy, old Napoleon guy,
the captain,
that he's gonna, enslave the inhabitants of the ship, take them to this island, and do experiments on them, and anyone who tries to step foot on this island will be killed. And that was one hell of a flashback. The acting was, you could tell it was old-timey. It wasn't modern day anymore. I could tell that it wasn't modern day anymore when they did this flashback.
Yeah, I could basically smell the fish and sea salt on that ship.
In the meantime, while Liberty's been killed, Casper's also been ripped in half.
Yeah, so Casper and Rudy go to like find a different way out because they realise if they blow the door open, then there's nothing to stop the zombies from following them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Casper and Rudy go and find a boarded up window, which I don't really see how that's any different. You're still taking coverage away. But as Rudy goes in first, being the chivalrous man that he is, and then as Casper's coming in behind him, yeah, the zombies come with axes and just like chop her legs off.
Yeah. So she's split in half, but it's not in vain because Rudy grabs hold of her face and is like, "You saved us!"
Yeah.
"You saved us," while she's like...
It also sounds horrible, but like, she's a goner, whereas the whole rest of the group are waiting for Rudy to go and open the front door, and they've all they're all running out of ammo and they're being ripped apart, and he's just there taking his sweet time because he's in safety, so he's not in a rush anymore.
So minus, did you say that was Simon, by the way?
Rudy.
Oh, Rudy. So there's a lot of selfishness goes on in this movie. So now minus Casper and Liberty, the rest of them are now holed up in the house again. And
Kirk's been bitten as well.
Kirk's been bitten, so he's worse for wear. He's laid up on like some makeshift gurney. And in the meantime, Simon, we now get back to Simon, who's just been, he's burnt outside. We've only seen his reaction to getting burnt. But he's sitting down with Foxy Brown, Karma, and he's like, "I belong in the circus. I'm the Elephant Man." And she then asks him, "What do you think's going to happen?" He's like, "I don't care what happens. No one's going to hire me as a model anymore." So he doesn't give a damn about the rest of the people in the situation with him. He just gives a crap about
This is like Ben Stiller all over.
It's Zoolander. It's absolutely Zoolander. His career in modelling underwear is down the toilet because he's got this giant... It looks like a period pad that they've put on his face with blood coming through it. And it's also... It should be mentioned that it's probably... 20% of his face is burnt. The rest of it still looks like fine. He doesn't look like the Elephant Man whatsoever.
So he's got like a good side of the camera when he goes back to work.
Luckily for him though, he's made to feel better instantly because Destiny, or what? No, Karma. Destiny. Karma.
Same thing, right?
Rain. Yeah, she then tells him, well, I still think you're pretty damn sexy. And he's like, really? Maybe I can model again.
You're not just saying this to make me feel better.
So all's well that ends well.
So actually, things ended really well for
All's
Karma.
well that ends well. But no, wait.
She got the guy she wanted all along.
They get that, and that scene is then finished, and we immediately into the next scene, and it opens with someone saying, it's quiet. A little too quiet, if you ask me.
Oh, wait. Before we even get to the house again, I think finally Simon the shitboy?
No, Greg.
Greg shitboy has been...
Simon's the model.
He's out.
Greg
so
is Poopy Man.
you can finally begin to concentrate a bit more.
Well...
and you don't have a 360 of him covered in shit.
You don't, but you should have.
already.
Why hasn't Greg got his 360 poop shirt?
Because he was off too soon.
No, that's a missed opportunity.
Just him looking all
that's a
suave
missed
with, like,
opportunity.
shit stains.
Yeah, because
all
he's
over.
wandered off by himself with his gun, which Casper's given him. So I don't know what happens to him. Anyways, you mentioned that Kirk has been bit. So Kirk is now worsening. But Kirk insists that they all leave him and go and save themselves. And they find this experimental lab. But while they're in their experimental lab, we see Kirk kind of like coming to. He's like, I'm not going to lay here anymore and just die. And he thinks he hears Salish whistling in the background.
They must have been lovers.
And there's not much of a relationship built up between Salish and Captain Kirk before this. So when he hears the whistling and goes outside, he then sees Salish, who doesn't have much of a zombie makeup on.
No, and he's not like going to attack him. He's just kind of standing.
He's just standing there whistling, being a moron, and he just blows him away. Blows him away, like no two thoughts about it. So then the zombies start to surround him. The rest of the gang, after leaving this experimental lab, have all seen Kirk, and it's like, you're gonna die. And he's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. He brings out like a stick of dynamite, and he tells the zombies, I'll see you in hell. I see you in hell, boys!
Which is really smart, because he's now blown off the whole front facade of the house where they're all hiding.
Yeah.
Which means that they obviously are exposed and they have to go deeper
into the train tracks.
Courtyard.
Yeah, courtyard
Apparently
first.
This house has a courtyard, which
House
also
of the Dead
attaches,
always comes with a courtyard.
Attaches to the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And has barrels of dynamite in it as well.
Yeah. So I've mentioned this. They then go to this like underground railway, and they're in this tunnel, and there's train tracks, and you get just the different characters who are left. Most of them blowing away zombies on the train tracks, and as they're walking towards the end of the train tracks, they come across who they think is Greg in a cloak, like a robe and a sword. He's got a big sword, and he wanders into this room, and it turns out it's not Greg, it's Castillo, who is now the lead zombie wearing Greg's face. And I'm pretty sure his shit-covered shirt. So Castillo's not just taken the skin off of Greg's face, he's also thought, I'll have this shirt as well. There's no way they'll be able to tell me apart.
Yeah, and it turns out Castillo's been reanimating everyone, and it seems it's because like he wants to figure out a way to live forever, right? So he's all patched up using people's
the thing
bits
is,
and bobs.
As Castillo has led Rudy and Foxy and Alicia into this little lair, Rudy is then accosted, and he says something to Castillo like, "You did this because you wanted to live forever, didn't you? Why?" And then Castillo says, "Because I want to be immortal." So they just answered the question twice between them, and he's asked why for no reason. Clever. Then it goes to another flashback, and we see Castillo hanging himself, but he manages to stay alive because his experiments of keeping, half-dead people alive, or whatever the hell he's doing, has succeeded, and there he is, hanging from a noose, but he's like, I'm alive! I'm alive!
And doesn't he also say to, like, Alicia and Rudy, like, oh, I've been waiting so long just for people like you. And I was like, you've literally had an entire rave's worth of young people there, and you had to wait for this girl's skin. And Rudy, I don't know what he wanted from Rudy.
And he licks the side of her face with his darty tongue. There's then like another explosion. Someone shoots like a barrel of gunpowder, and we think that Castillo has been blown away. So we see Rudy and, I'm just going to call her Alicia for now, even that's not her name. We see them escape, but then Castillo's not dead, and he comes out for a 360 cam slow motion Matrix sword fight. Mm-hmm. Doesn't last very long. He ends up stabbing Alicia, and while he's admiring his work, he then gets beheaded. But that's not the end of him. Then, without a head, he then walks towards Rudy like Frankenstein and starts to strangle him.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Alicia's still alive, and
With her dying breath.
She stomps his head, which was the one awesome part of this movie, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smush head was very good. And that's pretty much the end of it.
They do get rescued.
A chopper comes, and they see Rudy and Alicia leaving the house, and this agent lands, and he says, like, "You got a name?" And Rudy says, "Rudolph." "How about a second name?" "Karin." And that's supposed to be like some heavy-hitting thing, like you'll never forget Rudolph Karin. Why is
I just assumed that was from the game.
Why are they taking this long to just reveal that his actual name is Rudolph? And why is his name Rudolph? "What's your name?" "Rudolph." "You got a second name?" "Karin." Then we're back into a voiceover, which is Rudy. As he starts the movie, he finishes it with, "Oh, that death. We go home now. But is this the beginning or the end?"
Dun, dun, dun.
And then we're back into trance.
One of the trance songs, by the way,
trance.
if you like The Prodigy, you'll get a little rip-off reminder, let's say.
It's a straight rip-off of Prodigy. Yeah, that's the opening credits when you see Mr. Wanko's name come up. So pretty good. So are you now an Uwe Boll fan after seeing... And let's just go a little bit chronologically here. So he's been given this as his first Hollywood movie with a $12 million budget. It makes like 13. So then they give him Blood Rain, and just to say it costs the same and makes no money. The next people who produce the movie decide then to give him $60 million and make no money. So good decision making all round. And that movie, by the way, stars like Michael Madsen, Jason Statham, and a whole host of others. So you're gonna have to watch that one, In the Name of the King. But Boll fan?
No.
No. Well, I can't help you.
So let's move on.
Wait, I thought this is your number one movie.
Yeah,
Number
pile of turds.
one. Number one.
And I also gave it extra kudos because I assumed it must have a lot to do with the game. But hearing that the game has zero detail except for just blowing zombies away.
Well, you saw what the game was in the movie. Just those shots.
Well, I didn't know that was all the game.
That's pretty much all it is. Yeah, you've got
so...
to get through the house. Yeah, so this was House of the Dead, more like Island of the Dead. My favourite character was probably Greg in his poop-stained shirt. You don't get to see that every time at the cinema.
Moving on to the final watch of the week, 1.0.
My number one, and your last place. Have you had an episode?
I haven't lost my mind at all. I found the other two so much more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the dumbness, but entertaining nonetheless. This one, it was trying to go for something really intellectual. But it's not like, wow, I've never seen this before. And it didn't do it very well, I don't think. Well, why did you like it so much?
Well, I liked it because it was weird, abstract, not everything is explained. You're kind of left to your own devices. It's dystopian, or you like the way it was shot. I like the characters, I like the performances, I like the building,
Really?
I liked Bucharest. And yeah, so that's everything that I enjoyed about it, which is pretty much everything.
I enjoyed one thing.
What I would say is there are a lot of shots in this and kind of situations where they've used the entire, say, hour and 40 minutes to explore it. I'd do the same thing in Heathen to an extent within 5 minutes and just leave it out, and it has the same effect. But that's why I enjoyed a lot about it. There were loads of shots I enjoyed. The stairwell shot, the CCTV shots, a lot of it wasn't perfect in terms of, shiny, let's make a movie. A lot of it was overblown at points, and it would start out of focus, go into focus. I like all that kind of thing. It looked really grimy and dirty.
Actually, now that you mention it, I do remember it did have a good look.
Yeah, I thought the cinematography was really, really cool, and
In a
all the
weird
shots
way,
that they
it
chose
was-
were really good.
Like you said, it's one of those. It's a good look for the kind of film where you want it to look completely unpolished. So like the opposite of a Marvel movie, essentially. It's
Well,
just
this is just something that is
harsh
missing.
lighting.
Forget
and-
about Marvel. This is missing in horror now as well. When we talked about Netflix's version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's all lush and colourful, and it just doesn't serve the material whatsoever. This is more of what I would like to see.
But I'm surprised. Okay, I loved the character and performance of Udo Kier.
Of course, I always enjoy Udo Kier.
He was great, but apart from that, that was pretty much it for me. And I found the main guy quite annoying.
Right.
I seem to find a lot of people annoying.
The movie, so a guy called Simon, played by Jeremy Sisto, who you just said you didn't like so much. So Jeremy Sisto plays a guy called Simon, and he begins receiving these empty packages at his house in his apartment.
He's a coder, by the way.
In his apartment building full of weirdos, and he kind of has to work out who or what has been sending him these packages and why they're being sent to him. And like I say, he's living kind of like a lonely life, lonely existence by himself, and yeah, he's a coder, and he keeps getting his computer, and he's getting these irked messages from like his superior or his boss, who's asking him to, download your code, get your code over to me, you haven't got much longer. So Simon's got to give him this code, and he's not really taking it very seriously because he seems to have an addiction to milk, which he keeps having to go to the store to stock up upon. We also have, as well as Jeremy Sisto as the lead guy, you mentioned Udo Kier is a neighbour, also Lance Henriksen is a neighbour, and he has a couple of other, he's got a landlord who wants money from Simon because he's not been doing his work, so hasn't got any money. So instead, the landlord used him to like fix his generator or something like this in the basement.
His CCTV system, I think.
Yeah, because we're in this dystopian kind of future. Not so sure how far into the future we are, because a lot of the shots are just like so tight and everything like this. But he's been going to this store, stocking up on milk, and every time he goes to the store, he goes to the clerk, this weird clerk. And he asks the clerk every single time, am I being followed? And the clerk will just nonchalantly say, yeah, you're being followed. That'll be like $15 for the milk or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the vibe of the movie in general, isn't it? It's a strange piece of work.
I guess I have to say I appreciate where they were going with some of the stuff, like things you're bringing up, and even like Udo Kier's character as well seems to be some crazy scientist.
What I loved was, I love the monotony that it showed that this is how he was living, right? Abstract, weird, not everything's explained. Characters' performances. So do you not think that all of that came together to make like one whole thing, even though it's not like a super ambitious movie or anything? And also, there's a lot of weird stuff that kind of happens in the movie, and none of it for me kind of felt out of place. I felt they built like a believable world, if that's what you want to call it, where all of this weird stuff can happen, because Udo Kier is like, he's an inventor.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah,
so he's got that Adam the doll, this head.
Yeah, we found out he can't have kids of his own, so he's invented some sort of AI mechanical thing that gets progressively more and more.
Did you not find that
lifelike?
Adam the head quite disturbing?
Yeah, I did.
I also like to be disturbed. Another reason that I enjoyed this. Udo Kier also has a couch. It has nanotechnology, and you can have all different kinds of patterns on it, and it's also self-cleaning.
Until it breaks.
They call it a smart... until it breaks, they call it a smart couch, and when it breaks, it leaves itself with a stain on it to show that it is broken. So now you've got to just sit with your stained couch, because,
No, like I said, the Udo Kier thing was like the best part of it all for me.
We also have the lead
And
actress, Trish, who's also a member of the apartment building. Not remember Trish? No, she has sex with Jeremy Sisto's character Simon. They both declare that they don't love each other and then have sex. And Simon suspects her of leaving the packages at his house.
Well, he suspects pretty much everyone.
But she's the first one, I believe. Anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, you haven't mentioned as well, so it seems he's got one friend.
The courier.
Kind of friend? I don't know, it's not very clear. It's like sometimes they seem like they're best friends forever, and sometimes it seems like they barely know each other, and he's just like the drug dealer or something.
I think it's mentioned that they haven't actually known each other that long, maximum like a year or something like this.
But this guy can like hook you up with
anything
He's the
fixer. He's the courier.
Anything.
So he brings all his like code stuff for Simon.
And when Simon starts feeling all like weird and shit, he's like trying to sort out what's going on with him, and he has a blood test thing, so he takes his blood sample and goes and gets it tested and whatnot.
Because he tells him that he's drinking too much milk. Because, as I said about the monotony, he keeps going back to this store and buying milk.
But more and more each time as well.
And yeah, it ends up being like $82 for the milk in the end. It keeps going up and up. So the courier tells him to lay off it, but when he lays off it, he starts getting kind of like sickly and
side effects.
like haggard and pale. And he's not the only one with addiction. You have I'm not sure which neighbour it is, but I think it's actually Lance Henriksen has a collection of cola. It's like Cola 50 it's called, or something like this. And there's another character, I think it's just the guy who's literally called the neighbour, who has that weird porn game. And he has a collection of meat. And all of the foodstuffs are supplied, 90% of all foodstuff is supplied by one company. So it's like when I mentioned to you not long ago, when I decided to do, a Jeff Bezos order for food. And I ordered some, meat product. Also, when it came, it was like meat by Amazon. And that didn't make me feel too good. Like, why are Amazon now getting into minced beef?
So the whole thing is that we keep seeing all these different...
It's not good! And this movie highlights that.
Keep seeing all these different people with all just one product filling their shelves. And the girl that you mentioned, the lead female, she's, like, obsessed with juice.
Mm-hmm.
And our main guy is like slowly figuring this out as things go along, that everyone seems to have this one thing that they just can't stop buying.
Everyone seems to be an inventor as well, because you've got Lance Henriksen characters has those little bugs.
Right.
Which I think he's going to say that he needs to get them smaller and smaller so that he can, put them into people or something along those lines. Kind of forgotten. And he also mentioned Udo Kier has the Adam the Doll head. And also the guy called The Neighbour, he has this game which you plug yourself into. And it takes you into what I assume was like a virtual reality almost. But it's not a virtual reality because he plugs Simon into the game. And the guy dies while Simon can't get himself out of the game.
Yeah, this is the thing with this film. At one point I'll be sat there thinking, oh, this is kind of interesting and intriguing and I like what they've done with this. And then the next minute they'll do something that just kind of ruins it for me and takes away... It's like they build it up and then they just like, they build it up and it's like, it just missed for me. There's
kind of an unexplained, this dialogue doesn't make any sense either. So before he plays this game with the neighbour and he hooks him up, the neighbour just says to him something like along the lines of, oh, there are changes happening. I can show you. Play the game. It's all just very vague. There's not like real conversation. And that's another thing that I like.
The game thing is mentioned a lot, so you think it must have something to do with that, but I don't think it did.
Well, this
movie confused
when
me.
Simon is being told by the courier later on, and at this point Simon is not sure whether he can trust the courier as well as everybody else because he still doesn't know whose packages are coming from. Simon wants to take himself to the hospital, but before he gets there, courier turns up and says to him, look, you don't want to go into that hospital because they're not going to let you out. It turns out this corporation who owns 90% of supplying foodstuff has also bought out the hospital because they're trying to disguise the experiments that they've been doing on the population, inserting their ultra consumerism messaging or brainwashing and pushing it as far as they can go until a human can take it no more, and they essentially malfunction. So they've taken over the hospital so that they can get rid of all the cases, because there's this shady guy who stands outside the front of the hospital as the courier and Simon are talking, and then they both drive off.
I didn't even notice the hospital aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it's so strange because the courier guy seems to do stuff like that which you think is going to help him, but then it's the courier who's been delivering the packages the whole time.
Yeah, well, no one in the building is his friend in the end. They've all been working against him.
No, but again, I was like, at some points it seems like they all know what's going on. So yeah, like you just said, they're working against him. But then the next moment you find out that all the residents of his building received packages. So they're all under the influence of what he is. So then I'm like, well, surely they don't know what's going on.
Which is, well, they all know what's going on in their own little world. It's only kind of Simon. I feel like they've been there for longer is like the message that I got, because they're all so much older than him anyway. He's so much younger than the rest of the inhabitants of the flat, apart from Trish. Maybe.
And there's also mention made this work that he's supposed to be doing, his job, that he never seems to be actually getting on with. There's also mention at some point that if he could just finish that, then he would be saved. Mm-hmm. But I don't... again, maybe...
It's because the code that he's supposed to be giving to these people, he's had it implanted in him, and it's full of bugs, and that's why he starts to malfunction and starts like going, was it called Farm Fresh Milk? Farm Fresh Milk. He starts, you know, talking like an advertisement almost. And there's another character, I think it's the meat collecting character, also malfunctions at one point, starts saying the meat slogan.
He actually he did quite a good job of malfunctioning and stuff as an actor. I
So
thought.
when you said that you didn't enjoy it, so Jeremy Sisto, you'll know him from Clueless, and he literally he brings Brittany Murphy's character back around and is like, "Are you okay? Rolling with the homies." He's a bit of a prick in that movie. He tries to come on to whoever.
I know who you mean, but I don't.
Yeah, he's also in Wrong Turn. We've seen him in that movie. So this is the first time I've ever seen him where he's not kind of like just as he has been in those movies, and I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, again, like it wasn't that I thought he was a bad actor. It was just the softness of his voice, and just the way he acted.
That plays into the tone of the movie, though.
I know it does, but I can't help that it gets under my skin. Just found it frustrating. I just found him annoying. But what I was about to say was, I think maybe the reason that I don't love this film so much is because I like, I've said this 100 times before, I like there to be some kind of end answer.
For me, it was just more of the messaging of, consumerism is bad.
Huge, but it's like so 80s.
Huge companies overtaking everything. But it's a forever message, though. Even Heathen, at its core is really about all of that kind of stuff. But not in such
an obvious way.
No, of course not. I mean, I'm a superior writer. But, that goes without saying. So everything that you seem to not enjoy about, the lack of real resolution, you kind of left your own devices at the end as to what's happened.
That's not even it, though, because they keep giving you stuff that should be going somewhere, but then it doesn't, and it just doesn't hang together. That's ruining the illusion.
What is the thing in the movie that you would have liked to have seen explored, which didn't go anywhere? Like something that might have got introduced, where you thought, it might be cool. But
no, I just mean more like all the things we've mentioned already, where I've said, and this got said, or that happened, but then it doesn't seem to link up to anything.
No, that's what I enjoyed about it. It was just the complete abstract nature of the whole thing. And so is Simon the whole time an advanced robot, more advanced than Adam the doll, or was he human and turned kind of into a drone by all of this messaging that he's been getting into his brain from this download that he has, which is full of bugs? What was it for you? He's just not sure, and that's why you don't like it. We see him at the end, and his head is off. He's been scalped, essentially, and we see into his head where his brain is, or should be.
Yeah, because he was a test product or something. I don't know,
But is everyone in there a test product? And what is Adam? We see Adam's crazy face at the end, Adam the doll, kind of happy with himself. Almost looks like it's malfunctioning that he's so happy. That thing freaked me out. That thing really freaked me out. And, you mentioned to me once before, you pointed out that every time I love a movie, it always has a kind of a futuristic, dystopian, satirical idea. There wasn't really there was a little bit of satire in this, I guess, but not majorly. Not like Demolition Man or RoboCop. But this was that on a much lower...
Well, it was like dark satire. It wasn't supposed to be funny.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Mostly we are. I really like this movie. So it's not often that I get to say on this show that I enjoyed anything, but all of the elements of this movie are pretty much right up my street.
I wouldn't want to watch it again, I don't think.
See, whereas I'm intrigued to see it again, seeing things that I didn't pick up on.
I'd only watch it again for that purpose, to see if all those things that apparently loose ends to me actually have some sort of meaning. It
was also nice to see Lance Henriksen in something that kind of suits his... his acting ability as well, because he's always in this straight to DVD stuff, Dino Croc or something like that. He will be in movies like that. So I thought he suited this movie. Always like to see Lance Henriksen. Always like to see Udo Kier. Sister was pretty good. Trish was good. Everyone I thought was good, and I like the characters. I like the dialogue, the whole story, not story, and I really like Bucharest. I think it looked great.
One other quick question that's just come to me was that his obsession was with milk until his courier friend guy gives him the ultimate package at the end. But he gets more than one empty parcel delivered to him. So what's that about?
Well, there has been things in the packages. He just hasn't been able to see it because it's so minuscule.
No, I know, but why? Like the first one would have infected him with this thing to buy milk. Then why the rest there?
Well, as it increases, he needs more and more milk. So they're sending that's the experiment. They're seeing how much they can get away with, how much, of this stuff that he's breathing in to affect his consumer needs, and they take it too far. And,
Right.
and that's what happens to him. And I also think that if Jeremy Sisto's character Simon wasn't a robot and the whole time was human, but has over time been turned into a kind of drone, I think they're also using humans to teach the future drones like Adam the Doll to also do the same thing, so that the overbearing company could be all conquering, not just with humans, but with artificial intelligence as well. So there's a whole overbearing thing about it. So you have to have the writer's mind to kind of gauge these kind of niche elements of the movie.
Let's end it there so I can slap you silly.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this. One of the best movies I've seen on I Know What You Watched last week.